Hi, Ayden from the Off Grid shop here. Today we're just going to have a quick rundown of the basic components needed for a standalone Victron energy system. So these are the basic components to get started on your off-grid adventure. These are the basic Victron components you'll need to get started on your off-grid adventure. So we have an inverter charger, we have the servo and touchscreen, we have a wall mount and a battery monitor, we have our MPPT charge controller and a couple of communication cables. So we'll start with our MPPT. So the MPPT takes power from your solar panels and uses it to charge your batteries. Next, we'll have a look at our smart shunt. So this is the battery monitor. And this is used to monitor the amount of power going to and coming from your battery and giving an accurate reading so you can tell exactly how much is in your battery. Next is our servo. So this is the brains of the operation. Now, all of the Victron components communicate with this device and it will display all the data from each component on an interface that you can really easily read. Next we have the GX Touch. So this is a high definition touchscreen display that connects with the servo. And these are a great unit to see just exactly what's going on with your solar system. Bluetooth connectivity is to the servo. And this here is the wall mount, so you can neatly mount your touchscreen wherever you want. So next up we have the V-Direct comms cables. So now these transmit data between all of your devices, the smart shunt and the MPPT, to the servo, so that it can be displayed on the screen. Talk about the connections between these components. Cool. So first we'll start with our multiplus. So the multiplus has two main battery connections, a positive and a negative, up inside the lower fascia. So the positive connection is on the right hand side and the negative connection on the left. So there is in fact two posts for each, the positive and the negative terminal. Now this allows you to use two smaller cables in place of one larger cable, if that's all you got. So next we will position the MPPT charge controller. Now the MPPT has four terminals on it. It's got a battery positive and a solar positive or PV positive. It then has the battery negative and the PV negative. Now a common connection point for these, if you're not connecting them at a common fuse, is to run an positive cable between this post and this terminal, and a negative cable along this post. Now you will want a fuse somewhere along the line on your positive cable. And the rating of that fuse will depend on the size cable you use and the size MPPT you use. Next, the connections to the battery. We'll start with the positive from the multiplus. Then the negative. I'll be demonstrating how to configure the battery in a separate video. Check out our batteries playlist to see more. So next up, we'll install our smart shunt. Now it is wired in line with our negative battery cable. The two 17mm bolts here. And the smart shunt requires to go a certain way. So you'll see on the top side that will be facing the multiplus, it'll say to system. And on the bottom side, it'll say to battery. And that'll face our battery. Now on top of that, we have a small positive cable. Now this comes pre-lugged and with a fuse already installed. And we want to run this from the positive terminal, the small green connector, and it will run down to the positive terminal of our battery. Next up, we have our servo. Now the servo has a pre-lugged and pre-fused cable that comes along with it, and similar to the smart shunt, we'll bring the negative down to the negative terminal of the battery and the positive along to the positive terminal of the battery. Next up, we will run our communications cables. So I'll use green for VE Direct, the cables we showed earlier, and one of these will come from our smart shunt and into one of the VE Direct ports on our servo. Similarly, we have a VE Direct port on our MPPT. That'll go to another port on the servo. Next up, we will need a 1 metre patch cable, or an Ethernet cable, as most people know them as, which will run from one of the VE bus ports on the inverter to one of the VE bus ports on the servo. Now be sure to run it to the VE bus port. There is a very similar plug in front of the VE bus ports that is actually an Ethernet port, and the system will not turn on if you plug that cable in there. Next we have our GX Touch, the high definition touchscreen display. Now this unit has a cable coming off it that splits into a HDMI and a USB. Now the HDMI port is fairly obvious, as there is only one, but there is 3 USB ports. And when you're facing the servo, you want to use the USB port on the far right, as it is designated to run that USB. If you want more help with your off-grid system, either check out some of our other videos. We do provide a wiring diagram and system design service, or we can sell a DIY kit, where all the DC work is done. You just require an electrician to wire in the 240 to your house. Thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.